The city lights blurred into long, wet streaks on the window as Sarah slid into the back seat. The car smelled of old leather and something else, something metallic and vaguely familiar. She shivered, pulling her jacket tighter. "Thanks for the ride," she mumbled, her voice barely a whisper. The driver, a silhouette against the dim glow of the dashboard, just grunted in response. The doors locked with a heavy, final-sounding clunk. An uneasy feeling began to crawl up her spine. They drove in silence for what felt like an eternity. The familiar streets of the city gave way to darkened, winding roads she didn't recognize. "Where are we going?" she asked, trying to keep the tremor out of her voice. The driver didn't answer. Instead, he adjusted the rearview mirror, and for the first time she saw his eyes. They were cold, empty pits that seemed to look right through her. "You always did have a habit of running, didn't you, Sarah?" His voice was a low, gravelly rasp that sent a jolt of ice through her veins. How did he know her name? And what did he mean, running? A memory, fragmented and sharp, tried to surface the sound of shattering glass, a child's cry, the smell of rain on hot asphalt. She pushed it back down, her heart hammering against her ribs. I don't know what you're talking about," she lied, her hand instinctively reaching for the door handle. It wouldn't budge. He chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Oh, I think you do. You ran from the lake house that night. Left little Lily all alone." Lily. The name hit her like a physical blow. The memory broke free, a summer night, a game of hide-and-seek gone wrong, a little girl with her same brown eyes, her sister lost in the woods. They never found her. "Who are you?" she demanded, panic making her voice shrill. The car slowed, turning onto a muddy, unpaved track. Trees, like skeletal fingers, clawed at the windows. He turned his head slightly. "I'm the one who knows you didn't just run, Sarah. I know what you did." The car stopped in a clearing. The only light came from the high beams, illuminating a dilapidated, forgotten-looking cabin, the lake house. Her mind screamed, this couldn't be happening. He killed the engine, and the sudden silence was deafening. "Get out," he ordered. She refused, frozen in her seat. He turned fully toward her then, and in the faint moonlight filtering through the trees, she saw his face. It was a face she'd seen in old family photos, a face she hadn't seen in 15 years. Uncle Robert, the one who had organized the search party for Lily. Before she could process the shock, he was out of the car and yanking her door open. He grabbed her arm, his grip like iron. "We're going to finish what we started," he hissed, dragging her towards the cabin. Adrenaline surged through her. She stomped down hard on his foot, and as he grunted in pain, she wrenched her arm free and bolted. She didn't look back, just ran, branches whipping at her face, the sound of his angry shouts fading behind her. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs felt like lead, stumbling through the dense, dark woods. The ground was slick with mud, and she fell, her hands scraping against sharp rocks. She pushed herself up, gasping for air, and saw a light ahead, a small campfire. Hope surged through her. Someone else was out here. She staggered towards the flickering orange glow. Sitting by the fire was a woman, her back to Sarah. She had the same long brown hair, the same slight build. "Hello," Sarah called out, her voice hoarse. "Please, you have to help me." The woman turned slowly, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It was like looking in a mirror. The woman looked exactly like her, but her eyes were wrong. They held a glint of something cold and cruel, that Sarah had never seen in her own reflection. "Help you?" the doppelganger said, her voice a chilling echo of Sarah's own. "Why would I help you? You're the one who left me." Sarah stared, bewildered. "Left you? I don't understand." The woman stood up, a slow, deliberate movement. She took a step closer, and the firelight cast strange, dancing shadows on her face. "You don't remember, do you? You locked me in the old cellar. While you ran away, the memories were a confusing, swirling vortex, the game of hide and seek, 2 hiding spots, the rickety cellar door, a lock clicking shut. Had she done that? Had she locked someone in the cellar? But she was an only child after Lily. Lily. "You're not me," Sarah whispered, backing away. "Who are you?" The woman smiled, a terrifying, predatory grin. "I'm the one you forgot. I'm the one he came back for." She lunged. Sarah screamed and scrambled backward, her foot catching on a root. She fell hard, her head hitting the ground. The world spun and the woman's face loomed over her, her identical features twisted in a mask of rage. Blackness began to creep in at the edges of her vision. The last thing she heard was the woman's voice, whispering, "Now you'll know what it feels like to be forgotten." Sarah woke up in a stark white room. The smell of antiseptic stung her nostrils. A woman in a crisp white coat was standing by her bed, holding a clipboard. "You're safe now, Sarah," the woman said, her voice calm and soothing. "You had quite an ordeal. A park ranger found you unconscious in the woods." Relief washed over Sarah in a dizzying wave. It was over. She was safe. "My uncle," Sarah croaked, her throat raw. "Robert. And a woman who looked just like me. They tried to kill me." The doctor, Dr. Evans, according to her name tag, just nodded patiently, making a note on her clipboard. "Sarah, we need to talk about what happened. We've been over this before. Your Uncle Robert passed away 10 years ago. And you don't have a sister." Sarah stared at her, confusion turning back into icy fear. "No, that's not true. He was there, she was there. At the lake house." Dr. Evans gave her a sad, sympathetic look. "Sarah, the lake house burned down 15 years ago. The night your sister Lily disappeared. You were the only one who made it out." She paused, her gaze steady. "There was no one else in the woods with you. You were alone." The doctor's words didn't make sense. It was all so real. The car, her uncle's face, her own face, staring back at her from across a campfire. "No," Sarah insisted, shaking her head, the movement making the room spin. "You're lying." "It was real." Dr. Evans sighed softly and walked to the door. "I'm going to get you something to help you rest. We can talk more in the morning." She left, and the door clicked shut. Sarah pushed herself up, her body aching. The room was small, with a single barred window. This wasn't a normal hospital room. This was a psychiatric ward. Panic clawed at her throat. They didn't believe her. They thought she was crazy. She had to get out. She had to prove she wasn't imagining things. She looked around the room, desperate. On the small bedside table was a glass of water and a folder. Her folder. With shaking hands, she opened it. Inside were pages of notes, reports, and a photograph. It was a picture of 2 young girls, smiling, their arms around each other. They were identical. Underneath the photo, a caption read, "Sarah and Lily, age 8. Her blood ran cold." The records, the official story, everything she had been told was that she was an only child after her sister vanished. But this photo, this proved it. They weren't just sisters. They were twins, identical twins. A sudden, terrifying thought crashed into her mind. If Lily and she were identical, who was she? Was she Sarah, the one who escaped? Or was she Lily, the one who was left behind, the one who came back for revenge? The room felt like it was closing in, the white walls pressing down. She looked at her reflection in the dark, barred window, and for the first time, she wasn't sure who was looking back. The city lights blurred into long, shimmering streaks as I slid into the back of the Uber. My podcast recording had run late, as usual, and the thought of my own bed was the only thing keeping my eyes open. I glanced at the driver's profile on my phone. Michael, a perfect 5-star rating. Hundreds of trips, not a single complaint. Good. I just wanted a quiet, uneventful ride home. I mumbled my building's address, already leaning my head against the cool glass of the window. Jessica, right? His voice was pleasant, smooth. It crackled slightly through the car's speakers from his phone mount. I sat up a little straighter. Yeah, that's me. I thought I recognized your voice, he said, pulling smoothly into traffic. You're the host of Shadows of the Truth. A small smile touched my lips. It always felt good to be recognized. Guilty as charged, you're a fan? A huge fan, he replied, his eyes meeting mine in the rearview mirror for a second. They were dark, unreadable. I never miss an episode. Your research is impeccable. So thorough. Thanks, I said, relaxing back into the seat. We try our best to get the details right. It's important to honor the victims. It is, he agreed. That's what I admire most about your work. You really get into their heads. You understand the patterns, he paused. Like in your Highway Vanishings series, the 3-parter. Absolutely chilling stuff. An involuntary shiver went down my spine. That series had been my most popular, and also the one that had given me the most nightmares. It was about a string of disappearances along the I-17, just north of the city. Women all picked up late at night, all vanishing without a trace. That one was difficult to research, I admitted, my voice a little quieter. I can imagine, he said. The way you detailed their last known moments. The gas station receipt. The late-night text to a friend. You even figured out they were all picked up in a specific type of sedan, a dark one just like this. My breath hitched. I looked around. It was a standard black sedan, clean, nondescript. Like thousands of others in the city. I was being paranoid. The series had gotten to me more than I thought. You really do pay attention to the details, I said, trying to keep my tone light. Oh, I do, he confirmed. We came to a crossroad. The turn to my apartment was left. He signaled right. Hey, my place is the other way, I said, sitting bolt upright. I know, Michael said, his voice losing its pleasant edge. It was flat now, cold. We're taking a scenic route. My heart started to hammer against my ribs. I'd really just like to go home. I'm tired. We'll get there, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. And then I heard it. A soft click. The sound of the central locks engaging. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through my exhaustion. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers clumsy. I pretended to be scrolling through social media, but I was opening my emergency contact app. My boyfriend, Mark. Share my location. Send. You're very clever, Jessica, Michael said, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. You talk about it all the time on your show. The safety tricks. Sharing your location with a loved one. Keeping your phone in your hand. always letting someone know where you're going. My blood ran cold. How could he know that? My thumb hovered over the send button. But here's the thing, he continued, turning onto the on-ramp. The sign glowed ominously under the streetlights. I-17 North. The highway. What if the person you're sharing your location with isn't there? Mark's in Denver until tomorrow morning, isn't he? That conference. You mentioned it in your last episode, the one about the alibis. Every muscle in my body went rigid. It was true. Mark was out of town. I had recorded that intro just this afternoon, a little personal tidbit to connect with my listeners. A fatal mistake. I jabbed at my phone screen trying to call 911. The call wouldn't connect. No service, of course. This stretch of the highway was a notorious dead zone. Another detail from my own research, now being used as a weapon against me. You also recommend making a scene, he said, his voice a low, chilling monologue. Yelling, screaming, trying to get the attention of other drivers. A great idea. But out here, he gestured to the darkness outside. The highway was empty. Just a lonely ribbon of asphalt cutting through the black, silent desert. Who's going to hear you? Tears were blurring my vision. My mind was racing, trying to find an escape, a loophole, a trick I hadn't already outlined for my millions of listeners, and for him. I had taught him how to do this. I had laid out the perfect blueprint. Why? I whispered, my voice trembling. He glanced at me in the rear-view mirror again. This time there was something like admiration in his eyes. A terrifying, predatory glint. Because you're the only one who ever got it right, Jessica. The only one who ever came close to figuring me out. I had to meet the woman who understood my work so well. His work, the highway vanishings. It wasn't a theory. It was a confession. I was in the car with him. My phone, still clutched in my sweating hand, suddenly lit up with a notification from the Uber app. My mind, numb with terror, barely registered the words. It was a push notification, the kind you get after a ride is over. How was your trip with Michael? My breath caught in my throat. The trip wasn't over. We were still driving, speeding into the darkness. My eyes darted to the screen, my trembling fingers swiping to open the app. And there it was. The trip history, my ride with Michael. It was marked as completed, and beneath his name and his perfectly smiling profile picture were 5 brightly illuminated golden stars. My rating, a 5-star rating that I had already given him, a rating I never made.